Ladies and gentlemen, the bewitching hour of 7 o'clock has arrived, and I'd like to welcome all of those who are here at Moorabbin and the somewhat larger number who are online. And I'd just like to say that we have very good guest speakers month on month, and I think the more people who are able to come here live, the more inspiring it is for our guest speakers. There's certainly more people here than there was last month, and I think it would be great if that could continue in that trend. Are there any new members, visitors? So your name? Welcome, Kerry. And just the one. Welcome. Hope you enjoy the evening. Need to remind you that the meeting's being recorded and will be uploaded onto YouTube so that you can pick it up afterwards. And after the meeting, quite a number of people will repair to Fong's Chinese restaurant for what we call the waffle sig, which is wine and fine food and fellowship. So there's some maps so that you can find out how to get there if you need them. And for the people on Zoom, please keep your microphones muted. And at question time, if you want to ask a question, raise your electronic hand and we'll identify that and call upon you. Next, to introduce our guest speakers, we've got a double act here with Dr. Emily Parker and Dr. Kim Naude. Naude, okay, thank you, N-A-U-D-E. And their topic is the National Centre for Healthy Ageing Data Platform involving consumers in research. Now, that doesn't mean a lot to me, but at the end of their presentation, I'm sure it will. So I'll pass over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting us to speak today. This project has been going since about 2020. I was one of the first people employed, and it was right when COVID started. And so for a long time, we were all working from home, and so it's really great to be able to get out in the community and talk to people about what we're doing and encourage people to be involved in research and let them know about some of the great research that's happening in the area. So this is an outline of the talk. I'm going to just briefly touch on what is healthy ageing and look at the WHO definition of that, some of the work we've done with some of the consumers that we work with in the Frankston region. Talk about the actual National Centre for Healthy Ageing itself, and we're one stream of that centre and we're the data platform, so I'll explain that a little bit more as well. We'll give some examples of some of the research projects we've currently working with and supported, and then Kim will talk about some of the ways that consumers and people in the community can be involved with the platform and helping with data access research projects. And I can be closer, yep, thank you. And also a new digital platform we have to help people in the community be involved in research, not only for the data platform, but all over Australia and also internationally as well. So what is healthy ageing? If you Google it, you'll come up with so many definitions. There's not really one set definition. It's a bit of a funny cartoon there that we like to show. If you don't go to the doctor, you can't find anything wrong with me, and that's how you stay healthy. I think most people don't bury their head in the sand these days, and there's more prevention awareness, and there's more awareness about ways that people can maintain health and try and stay healthy throughout the whole lifespan. This is the World Health Organization definition. So this is one definition that you'll find on a Google search. So the process of developing and maintaining the functional ability that enables well-being in older age. So that's a all-encompassing definition of healthy ageing that the WHO has put together for people all around the world. Kim and I conducted some workshops 2001, 2002, and we worked with the consumer groups at Peninsula Health. So when we set up the data platform, which I'll go into in a moment, we really wanted to involve consumers. A big part of research now is to have consumer input and consumer engagement. And so not only do the researchers want to do that, but the funding bodies also now require that researchers take on board what the community wants, so that it's not just people with an idea go ahead and conduct research. It really is about making sure it benefits people in the wider community. So these are some of the things that we spoke about and this was taken from the people that attended the workshop. So you can see here, healthy aging is quite broad to lots of different people. This is done in Australia, in a developed country. So if you went somewhere else, it might be completely different. These consumers and people from the public were all over 65. So if you went to a different age group, it would also be different again. So some of the things they said, healthy aging is very much about social connection with family and friends, not just the physical aspect of life. You need to try and stay young. Your outlook and your attitude is a big part of staying young, not the number of years on the calendar. Keeping fit and active physically, mentally, and having a balance between that as well in your life. Life circumstance can also impact healthy aging. The dynamic at home, the dynamic with your family, community dynamic, and also COVID had a huge impact on how people thought they were aging as well. Not everyone, but some people lost connection during that time. And so they really found they weren't always feeling that they were healthily aging. They found it quite difficult at times. Information was a big thing about mixed messages. Sometimes you hear that one thing might be good for you and another thing might be good for you, and getting accurate information is really important to know what will help you. Also time is a big factor in aging. Becoming ill, or if you had family members that become ill, that can impact the way that you're able to do all of these other things as well. As you age, you're looking after children, you may look after a partner, you may look after adult parents, and become a carer. So that can also impact a person's physical and mental health and the way we age. Also physical differences and experiences as well. Also too, we've got here, 65 people aim to retire, but most people report about mid-50s is when they really started to notice changes. But hopefully the things that they did long before that impacted what happened to them at that age, and you continue to age past that point, and there's always something positive you can do. So it was a really big discussion we had, but these were the main points that we got out of it. So you can see it's not just one definition for healthy aging. Okay, so the National Centre for Healthy Aging is where Kim and I are based. It's a partnership between Monash University and Frankston Hospital, and it was funded by the federal government back in 2020, just before 2019, and we were set up in 2020. It involved the a new building, and that's for research to be conducted at the hospital with collaborations with the university. So it really is encompassing the health service and the university to come together and bring researchers and clinicians to put their ideas forward. The aim is to develop better solutions for health related to ageing through the lifespan. And also we will be building industry partnerships with industry, local community groups, and the aged care sector. So we have a number of projects already involving those groups. Why here? So the researchers that we work with are mostly based in Melbourne, but the Mornington Peninsula, as you can see there, I'm sure everyone's familiar with that, it's a very defined geographic area. Most people that live on the peninsula will attend a public health service throughout their lifetime. All of the hospitals, the public hospitals and the rehab centres are all linked. So if you're a patient in a hospital or a rehab centre, you have the same UR number. And that's not a common thing. Quite often you go to one hospital and you might go to another hospital still in the same region, but you have a different UR number. So that's really important when we're looking at research, because we're able to put data together from people that go to different services and identify that person by that one common number. The other advantage of having a geographic area is that most people will attend that service, whereas if you went somewhere like Monash Health or Royal Melbourne Hospital, people are coming from everywhere. So we are able to have a defined region and defined cohort of people that utilise this service. We do get visitors, obviously, that come to the Mornington Peninsula and use the health service, but what we're interested in for our particular data platform is the people that live here and utilise the public health service. There's a mixture of different socioeconomic status, different regional and metropolitan areas, and also a higher than the Australian average ageing population. I think everyone might know that a lot of people retire to the Mornington Peninsula, and so when you look at the population across Australia and compared to the Mornington Peninsula, there is a higher population of aging over 65, and so that means that some of the health issues that we see in that group are also a little bit more concentrated on the Mornington Peninsula, things like dementia, cardiovascular disease, and other common health factors. So it's quite a little research bed and a good population to be able to track and define quite well. The National Centre has 3 different work streams. It's either the Living Labs, simulation environment, and the data platform. We're part of the data platform, and that's what we'll concentrate on today, but we do have other streams that were also funded with this grant, and they're all related to healthy ageing. There's more information on the website, and I'm sure if you're interested in the future, we could get someone from those streams to come and talk as well. But with the data platform, what we hope to do is use the power of large data. So that set of participants or patients or the community that live on the Mornington Peninsula use a large data set to start to inform, influence, and develop national solutions for care related to ageing. And so we're able to bring all that data together, and I'll explain that in a bit more detail. Okay, so this is how data is collected. You can see up the top left there, Peninsula Health Hospital visit. So if anyone, they might be referred for rehabilitation, or they might attend a community service, or they might go to ED. So when you attend a hospital, there's routine data that's collected. So that's one really important part about this service, or this platform, is that all of the data that's utilised is things that are routinely collected as part of healthcare when anyone goes to a hospital. We're not collecting anything extra. Clinical data is stored in different systems in the hospital. So when you go into ED, you'll have some details taken there. Then you might go to radiology if you need a scan. You might be moved to a ward. Unfortunately, that's not one system. There are lots of different systems within the hospital. They don't always talk to each other. So sometimes that's why you get asked something more than once. Peninsula Health is actually very good with electronic record keeping. So a lot of it is recorded in electronic systems. Some other hospitals in Victoria and Australia are still using handwritten records, but it's not one system. There's a mental health system, there's a maternity system, and then there's a community health system. So although we have one number for everyone, not all of the data is in one place, and it can't always be pulled up by the clinicians across the different departments. So what we have aimed to do with the data platform, the third step here, is we have a copy of the data that's kept within the hospital. It's still kept within the hospital. Nothing's ever moved out of the Peninsula Health Secure Network, and our staff are employed by Peninsula Health, and only 1 or 2 people are able to have access to that data, so it's a very limited team, and it's really on a need to kind of know basis that people get access. We follow all of the governance and privacy laws applicable to health data, and so we bring all of that data together, and we're able to then link up data from one person from all of the different systems. And we're able to look at the different data that's collected and have a look at the quality of that data, have a look at how completed that data item is. So for example, APTI, the status of a person as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, is something that is highly encouraged to be collected, because that's reported to the federal government, and that's for all hospitals. And there are other data items that are reported to government. So those data items tend to be much better collected than some other data items that are not considered to be a mandatory item. And so we're bringing all of those together to create a set of data that will be consistent across all the patients that can be used for research purposes. And so that's where you can see there in that bottom right corner. Once that's curated, it's de-identified. So all the data is put together, but we can't see data from me. I had all my children in Frankston. I've had taken my children to hospital. If anyone wanted to have a look at data for someone women in their 40s that have had children, my data would be included in that, but not any identifiable information. So no one would be able to know that Emily Parker had been to Frankston Hospital and this was my journey. It would be part of a cohort of data, a set of data, and that's to make sure that people's identity is kept private, and that's part of the privacy laws, but also you get power in numbers for research. So one person's data is good for that person, but if you're looking at a population level, you actually need a lot more. And so we are able to group that data together, take out anything identifiable, and the researchers are then able to utilise that data and have a look at trends, look at models of healthcare, and have a look at different interventions and the outcome of those interventions in the healthcare setting. That data, because it's been analysed, because it's been curated, is quite high quality, and so it's already pre-prepared for the researcher. That brings us to the last step. We have an access pathway, which Kim will talk about later on. So we have researchers from Monash and Peninsula Health at the moment, but we can expand that later on, and we're working on that, getting that in place. They can come to us and go through a specific pathway, and we've worked really hard on the governance of data to make sure that, once again, we comply with all the right rules, and we're making sure it's safe access and safe transfer of data into a safe system for analysis. And they will come to us with a research project with their data items that they would like. That goes to an ethics committee, and that project is approved, or we provide feedback. And so the aim is to provide the researcher with the data they need for that question, rather than give them all the data to have a look at if they don't really need that. So it's a really refined process that we're working with. It's not something we've created. Lots of organisations do this, but we've been able to refine it and streamline it so that we work with Peninsula Health legal team, the Peninsula Health Research Office, to make sure we're complying with all of the different rules and different ethics requirements and legal requirements, and that the data is protected in a really, really safe way. So we've got a couple of examples before I hand over to Kim of research projects that have already been approved and the data has been provided to researchers. This one here is looking at mental health problems in emergency departments for older people. Quite often they were finding it was very inconsistent, the tracking of, sometimes it wasn't identified at all. And so looking at how many older people attend the emergency department have common mental disorders, and that's the common terminology used. And is there a relationship between common mental disorders and outcome of ED stay, looking at the length of the stay. So if someone comes in, this could lead to them having a flag where the staff are aware before they come in, and then they can assess that person in light of that information as well, and having a look at whether or not that would impact the length of stay. Some people might need more time in hospital, whereas others might need less, and this is one factor that might play into that. And another one is looking at homelessness in healthcare, using, once again, the data that's routinely collected to estimate the number of patients accessing healthcare through Peninsula Health who are homeless. At the moment, that's not very well recorded. It's not something that's required to be reported to government, and so it may be written down in text. It may be, something, the address might be missing. So this research is looking at ways that can be identified, and that could be used as a flag for future use as well, so that that person can be offered the right services and be given more opportunity to access community services, or what they may need in particular, social work or different types of things that might be associated with being homeless. I'll hand over to Kim now. She's going to talk about consumer involvement.
Hi everyone. I was going to say we do have a video at the end of another project which we can show. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk to you a bit about how you can be involved in the data platform, and also as and research projects as a consumer. So as Emily mentioned, we have developed with Peninsula Health a very specific data access process that researchers will need to follow in order to be able to access data from the data platform. So one of the first steps is for them to complete a one-page expression of interest form, and this form consists of specific project details, like a summary of their research and also a consumer benefit statement. And then this expression of interest form, this expression of interest form will then need to go to a special expression of interest review committee. And this committee is made up of consumers like yourselves and also independent researchers. And this committee will then screen each expression of interest project and ensure, firstly, that the project is of benefit to the wider community, and then secondly, just to ensure that it's a good use of data from the data platform. Once that's gone through, there's a number of other steps that they'll need to go through before they can actually access data from the data platform. So this is, I was going to say, we actually are looking for consumers to be a part of this expression of interest review committee. So this is what the expression of interest form looks like. So the researcher will have to put down a plain language summary of their project, also a project proposal with details such as background of the project, the aims, research questions, study design, etc. And then lastly, a consumer benefit statement where they'll need to describe the benefit of their project to the wider community. For the consumers, I'm so tall. Thank you. For the consumers on the review committee, we asked them two main questions. The first one is the research project of benefit to the wider community? So for example, do they feel that it might help to better understand the health and care needs of populations? Or could it lead to the identification or improvement of treatments or interventions? And then the next question is, do they feel that there are any foreseeable risks to society from this project? So as I mentioned, we are looking for people to join this committee. So at the moment, as we're still developing the data platform, we're not having as many research projects coming through, but as we get more established, we'll have a lot more coming through. So we're hoping to email everyone on the committee, the EOI projects every 1 to 3 months. And then expecting feedback to be provided back to us within 2 weeks. And the review should take between 15 to 30 minutes. So if you are interested in joining this committee, you can let Kirsten know maybe through email, or at the end of this presentation, you could let me know. So I'm now just going to talk about the Voice Consumer Engagement Platform, which is at the moment being established at the National Centre for Healthy Aging. So what is the Voice? So at the moment, it's based in the UK. And what it is, it's an online platform which links researchers and consumers together. So at the moment in the UK, there's around 8,000 consumers across the UK that are on this platform. And what happens is researchers will sign up to the platform and they'll be able to post different research opportunities that they would like consumers to be involved in. So if they've got research surveys or workshops, they can then get consumers to participate in those. And then, the platform is co-designed with citizens as well. So at the moment, as I said, it's based in the UK, but it's starting to be established globally. And so there's a Voice in the USA, in Canada, in Singapore, in Italy, and it's now coming to Australia, which is very exciting. And it's going to be housed, as I said, in the National Centre. And initially it'll be available to Monash University and Peninsula Health researchers, and then it'll hopefully get bigger. So membership, so to sign up as a member, it's very easy and quick, and it's free as well. And so when you sign up, you can set your interests and notification preferences. So for example, if you're interested in a type of research such as diabetes or cardiovascular disease, you can put that as an interest. You can then start scanning through different research opportunities, and you can register, apply to attend events or take part in workshops, do surveys, or there's also lots of special interest groups that you can join as well. And once you've participated on a project, you can then receive feedback on the results of the project. And so this is an example of a research opportunity. This one's called Intergenerational Conversations on Aging. So as you can see, it's an in-person workshop. There's the date and time, location, and then eligibility. So who the researchers are looking for. So this one, they're looking for people between 50 and 130 years of age. So if someone's interested in participating in this project, they can then click on this. So as I said, it's still in establishment, but if you are interested in becoming a member, you can let Kirsten know or let me know at the end of this presentation, and we can send you an email and get you signed up. So that does come to the end of our presentation. As I said, if you're interested, we do have another video of one of the projects that the data platform has been involved in. It's 6 minutes. Yeah. 6 minutes. Oh, there should be a play button on there. Okay. Oh, I think it.
So we have questions. I'm not sure that I can see everybody on Zoom when you put up your hand. So it may be you do need to call out and I'll recognise you. Would that be the whole? That won't be the whole lot though, will it? So don't. Oh, okay. I didn't realise that. Thank you. Are there any hands there now? Who are the first two, please? I can't see them. John Thompson, your question.
Okay. My question goes to the first speaker. As probably one of the statistics points in your Peninsula Health Survey, I have to ask, does it include all of the other hospitals on the peninsula or only those in the Peninsula Health Group? That was the first question. And the second question was, when does the data set start? Is it 2020 or could it go way back?
Yep. No. So the first question is that it involves all of the public hospitals and services on the peninsula. The private hospitals are owned by different companies, so Ramsay Health and St John of God. They collect their data separately, so we don't actually link with them. We don't have sharing of data. That's something we could do in the future, but it's not something that's funded in this first part of our setup. The second question, for this initial data set, we've gone back 10 years. And I think there's 800,000 people that are included in that data set, and we will get updated feeds of that data every fortnight. So if someone goes there tomorrow, in another fortnight, that data will be included as well. So there's an ongoing update of data for people that live in that region. But we've only gone back 10 years because we found before that the quality wasn't as great. If a researcher came to us and wanted data prior to that, we can still access that data. But it's not part of the curated data that we have available through the governance pathway, which is a bit quicker to get.
That's disappointing about the private hospitals not being included, because there are many of them on the peninsula, and a lot of the aged part of the population, of course, goes to the private hospitals. Thank you anyway.
There are, and unfortunately it's not something we have any control over. The hospitals within a network don't share their data, so they're all seen as separate entities. So it's all governed in a very different way. But we're hopeful that in the future we may be able to include some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Richard, you've got a question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about gathering the statistics. If the people are visiting hospitals or medical centres, they're not quite healthy. So how do you incorporate the numbers of people that don't need these medical services and are very healthy?
Oh, well, I think so the people that visit are all people that live on the peninsula. There's Australian statistics for different diseases, so we'd be able to compare to the Australian statistics. But I think we'd look at, usually there's a question around a medical condition or a medical issue, and some of the questions around access to healthcare. And so it's really looking at the population within that group. So we could, I mean, if we wanted to have a look at and compare it to a healthy group, that's where we could ask for volunteers from Voice, for example, and we could have a group of people that are within the hospital already. We could also conduct a survey using Voice and put a call out for people who don't have that condition, and then they could be included and we could compare that data. So that's one way we could do that. But you're right, people who visit the hospital usually have a medical condition or something that they need attending. You don't go to hospital if you don't have that. So we'd have to find that population elsewhere to do a direct comparison between a group with the condition and then a group without that. Did that answer your question, or did you have a follow-up?
Well, no, I was just wondering how you cope with those statistics, that's all.
Yeah, there are other studies in Victoria. prior to joining this group, I was with Monash University, and we were part of the Spree trial. I don't know, some people here might have been involved, and that recruited people within Australia that were over 75, or over 70, and were considered to be healthy. So they didn't have any major health conditions. And so that's been going for over 12 years now. And so that's a huge data set of people that entered that trial without any medical conditions and then developed them over time. So some of that data could also be utilised and linked to some of the data we have if that was what researchers were interested in.
Tom, you've got a question.
Yes, I can see a gap here. By the way, good evening and thanks for the talk, for the presentation. For example, I'm in my mid-80s. My hospital is Monash Health in Clayton. I hardly go there unless I have an injury, but I do present myself to the local GP, and I do see medical consultants and all that, and they sometimes refer to simple procedures in a private hospital because I have health cover. So I as a person is not in your statistics, and I would presume there are thousands of others who are like myself, and I can see that it becomes that your work is to do with people who go to the Peninsular Health, which is, I presume, part of the Monash Health. Is that right?
They're different, actually. No, they're different.
Yeah. And I can see that those who go there, rather than to go to private consultants and so forth, is a different socio-economic group. So I think your research may be biased to the lower socio-economic part of the community.
No, that's a very good observation and a very good comment and question. Part of the linkage that we have, so we use the data from Peninsular Health, so that's people who are accessing the public health service. In a major emergency, most people would go there, but you're right, if you have a condition where it's something that's not an emergency, you can access private health. I mentioned earlier that there are sets on certain things that have to be reported to government, and one of those is coded, is the incidence of certain diseases that are coded. And so there's a certain code for cancer, and under cancer there's hundreds of different codes for different types of cancer, for example. There's different codes for procedures and relating to all different diseases. And so all of that data is reported to the AIHW, Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, and also the Victorian government, and there's different data sets. There's also a data set for MBS, Medical Benefit Scheme, part of Medicare, and you can often access Medicare at a private hospital as part of your co-payment, and also PBS, the Pharmaceutical Benefit Scheme. We don't have open access to any of that, but if a researcher was looking into a particular disease, we're able to apply to get that data and link it back to what we have, and then we would look at that geographic region. So we do work with Peninsular Health data at the moment, but we do have some projects where we're linking up with data from the Alfred and data from Monash Health. Also, we think that the population will be fairly representative of populations in different areas, given a few exceptions. I mean, the Peninsular Health population is not, it's very, what's the right way to say it? The demographic is not so broad as somewhere like Monash Health, where there's lots of different cultures. So it's predominantly, or the highest population is Caucasian people. Often that's because of the age and the population of people that travel as well, or retire there as well. And so that's something that we look into doing linkage with other health services, so we broaden our coverage. Yeah, so you're right, there are gaps, particularly some of the private health hospitals, because we don't have access to that, but there are common sets of information that are reported to a central place that we can access, or we can apply to access.
Well, may I take this a bit further,
Yep.
if I may? The demographics. of the peninsula area is more sort of a middle-class retiree or holiday makers, but I mean, those who live permanently there are basically retirees. Whereas if you compare that to the western part of Melbourne, it's a different demographic and different needs, I would say.
That's true. The peninsula does have a very mixed demographic in terms of socioeconomic status. It goes up from the tip of the peninsula all the way up to Seaford, where Kim and I live, and even parts beyond. So where we live, there's lots of young families. In other areas of Frankston, they're considered to be a lower socioeconomic status, and other areas on the peninsula as well. So there is quite a broad mix. There are certainly areas where when you go down towards Sorrento and Portsea that are higher socioeconomic status, but there is quite a mix of different groups on the peninsula. But in terms of multiculturalism, it is less multicultural than Western Health or Monash Health, Dandenong, for example, because we don't have the high number of different cultures in the area, but that's something that we're aware of and that can be taken into consideration for researchers when they're applying for data.
Does anyone in the room have a question?
How old do you need to be called a consumer?
Anyone? So it's interesting terminology. That's what we use, and that's what a lot of people within the hospital use. In the UK, when Kim was talking about voice, they're called citizens. But we use the term consumer. So anyone that's a consumer of the health service. So you don't necessarily have to be going there for medical treatment. You could be a carer, you could be a partner, and you're still consuming part of that service.
I mean, in age?
No, there's no limit.
So like young families,
absolutely,
kids?
yeah.
Oh,
particularly for voice, anyone can sign up to that. With the expression of interest, because we're generally looking into populations over 65, that's the type of people the consumer we've attracted so far, but certainly don't have to be. We would welcome any age.
You welcome any age to join your group, your research?
Oh, absolutely.
Group? Okay,
yep.
great.
Yep. Yeah, and some of the research projects we get requests for are in the older demographic, but certainly things like homelessness and some of the other ones we've had don't have an age limit.
Oh, so aging is everybody ages.
Yeah, from the minute you're conceived.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We have research week at the hospital this week and had a speaker yesterday, and they were in midwifery, and so they talked about the impact of different things through pregnancy and then through that early life stage, and you consider to be aging from the very beginning. Yeah, but we see more health conditions obviously at the other end.
Thank you. In regards to your review committees, what is the time commitment, either face-to-face or online, that would need to be put in by anybody?
So it would be, we would be emailing you, so it wouldn't be in person, but we would be doing sort of online training. So if you wanted to be a member, then we would do like a Zoom or a Teams online training. I'm telling you what to do and how it runs. And then every 1 to 3 months, we would email you the project. And then for you, we've got like a review template that you would fill in and then email that back to us.
So how often would that be?
So every 1 to 3 months. At the moment, as I said, we don't really have many projects coming through, so we're not busy at all. But as soon as we start having projects coming through, and also we're very flexible. So if you were away or anything, that would be fine. You could just let us know, and we'd have a number of people that we could also use as well.
Oh, interesting. I'm fairly committed socially and otherwise, looking after as a carer. But it's interesting.
Thank you.
I think we can send out some more information to be distributed, and there's absolutely no pressure. People can come in and out as they like. We understand. Well, we've got 3 kids each. Things get busy at all stages of life, and things change. So once you commit, you can come in and out as you need to. But we find people find it really interesting to see the research that's happening.
Well, there was a lot of interest in that topic, and I'd like to thank, on your behalf, Emily and Kim for coming and presenting their work, which obviously is very important. And it's interesting to think of ageing that really starts from when you're born, isn't it? And the key to it, I find, is to think young. You can be a 50-year-old and think old, or you can be a 90-year-old and think young. And it affects your mental health and I think the physical health. But to thank you for coming, we have a little gift. We recommend that you don't drink it before driving home. And thank you very much again. Thank you. So David is going to make a presentation to us and show us the new 3D printer that the club has bought. And I think we're all can all have a play with it sometime at our leisure.
Correction, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Yes, it works. Okay. I'm going to correct what you said, Barry. I'm not doing a presentation, I'm going to wing it totally. A little discombobulated after the recent events. Okay, so the club recently invested in a fairly upmarket 3D printer. You may have seen a couple of them sitting around from time to time, the sort of open frame ones, which we colloquially call bed slingers. This is a very different kind of beastie. It comes with a lot of advanced features, including what you see here, which is a color changer, so it can actually print one print in multiple colors if you want to. In short, this particular type of 3D printing, there's a head. You can actually see it on the screen there. The big white blob thing there is the print head. Let me move it around for you, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I think I can move it around. That's the print head. It's got a very fine nozzle in it that with a 0.4mm aperture or hole in it, and this plastic filament gets heated up in the print head and pushed through that 0.4mm diameter hole. And then the print head moves around in the Y direction like that, which I just did. In the X direction, the camera's a bit slow, so you get a delay. And then the print bed itself, let's see if I can get to the control for that. The print bed itself moves up and down like that. So it will start in the fully up position. For the first layer of material, the print head will move around and paint out the pattern, and then print head will go down by 1.2mm movement. The layers are 0.2mm thick. It can go thinner, it can go a little thicker. 0.2 is the kind of a default. And it will slowly paint out the pattern that you want and move up into layer after layer after layer. So that's called fused deposition manufacturing, FDM. There are other technologies, but this is the one that we have got and is very, very popular in hobbyist circles. This particular printer, the Bamboo, is at the top end of the hobbyist scale. This one costs, I think, about $1,500. Now you can get a cheap bed slinger for about, what, 300? Yeah, 200 or 300. If you're prepared to spend an awful lot of time fiddling with the printer itself and maybe not producing very much output. This printer here is pretty much send it a file, press the button, and walk away and get a cup of tea. It's very good. And it's a sort of what I personally will call third generation hobby level printer. The first generation were literally cut out of bits of laser cut plywood or perspex with wonky mechanisms. The second generation just a little bit better with aluminium profiles.
David, just want to make one more point about this particular printer versus the bed slinger naked frame type designs. I did a test the other day where on a bed slinger it was going to take me 9 hours and 58 minutes to print a part that I wanted to print. On this machine, it took 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Yep.
So just an amazing machine compared to the old style.
Yep.
It's not just a next generation, it's worlds away.
Yep. This particular one, this particular one has actually been compared to a brand called Ultimaker, which is at the low end of the professional range and in the $10,000 range. And I think one post I saw online, somebody said, "Oh, I got rid of the Ultimaker and bought 3 of these instead, 3 bamboos, because they're faster, more productive, and you always get a failure with a 3D printer. That's kind of that's nature. But the failure rate with these is very, very low. And when there is a failure, it's usually user error. So I see lots of posts where, "Oh, I had this printer, I've had it for 3 weeks because just can't get a decent print out of it." Read some blinking manual, mate. Or ask questions, sensible questions on Facebook or one of the forums. So what are the sorts of things you could use this for? Well, you can download a lot of files from the internet for just about anything. There's zillions of free ones and there's hundreds of thousands of paid ones. Just as for instance, this little lantern that I made, I'm not sure you can see the light, or I might have to turn the lights out and you can see there's actually a little light inside it. The pumpkin and hat are beyond my artistic capabilities, so I actually downloaded the files for that. And then I designed and had lots of fun designing the light that goes inside it, especially the switch. The backstory to that was this was designed to take one of those little electronic tea candles that they have in restaurants, but I wasn't going to go spend $5 for 6 of those. So I spent 2 days doing this instead. I'm sorry you guys at home probably can't see that, but yeah, I can't help that. So this on here took, I don't know, I print in batches, probably 2 hours or something to print that lot. So for me, certainly, it's fast enough. I can do something and say, okay, I'll go and have a cup of tea or watch telly, and by the time I go to bed, I can have a look, or leave it printing overnight, and by the time I get back in the morning, there's going to be 6 of those sitting on the print plate. That sort of thing. I do things like, this here's a project I'm working on for the Open Day. This is going to be a 60 LED clock powered off a microprocessor. Sorry, guys at home again. If I turn my screen sharing off, will they see me on the camera? Try that.
We can see you now, but we can't see the demo.
Oh, they can see me, can they?
Yes.
Okay. So the microprocessor or controller board, of course, this base is 3D printed as well for all my experiments. I make these sort of 2 or 3 at a time. And that plastic ring holds the strip of light emitting diodes like that. The ladies before were talking about health and aging and so on. I had to calculate the diameter of that circle. I was struggling with 2 pi r. Seriously. It's sad when you got to Google how to calculate the circumference of a circle. But that's how it goes. So that's a sort of, you can make decorative things. When we went to New Zealand recently, last year, we fell in, well, we noted all the traffic cones in New Zealand and little signs that say works end. So I made that for my missus when we got home. And it follows the pattern of the New Zealand traffic cones, just for fun. So you can design your own if you're prepared to knuckle down and learn the software, or you can get millions of designs offline, or online, I should say. So you would typically download a file, and I'll go very quickly through the process. This program I'm running here is called a slicer. It takes the three-dimensional file and it works out the individual slices of plastic that have to be laid down by the printer. I'll just change the color on that. Oh, have I been taken off screen share or? Oh, okay. Monthly meeting, share screen, that one, that one. Oh, I've got, there, that should be better. So I just changed the color. No, I didn't. Change the color to, oh, I've got translucent filament in the first slot here, so I'll select that one. Now, when I click slice the plate, there's a whole bunch of settings here. Don't worry your pretty heads over that right now. You'll learn that eventually, and the defaults usually work pretty well anyhow. When I click slice the plate, it goes and it munches on that thing. Because it's a small print, it very quickly slices it into the individual layers. And here's a report. It's going to take 10 minutes and 21 seconds to print, of which 5 minutes is just preparation time. This printer, unlike a lot of other of the Betzlinger type printers, when you first start printing, it will go and check that the bed is completely level. It probes around on the bed to detect if the bed is flat. And if it detects any unevenness, a bit of bow or slope or something, it compensates for it in software. So you don't have to worry, you just sit there, press a button and go and get a beer. And that's really cool. It tells you the different, you can sort or see what different line types, speed. This thing is so simple, it's just going at the same speed all the time. All sorts of parameters you can check here at the moment, line type. You can also go here, and that little slider, just get rid of that. That little slider allows you to examine the layers. So there's the top layer, and I can go down through the layers. See those layers there, they are called infill. Solid top layer, solid bottom layer, in fact two solid layers, top and bottom, and that's the infill. There we go. I can also, see that little thing moving around there? That's actually the printhead. And the text scrolling down is the computer G code, as it's called, that gets sent to the printer that gives it all the instructions. So it's pretty impressive. That G code, by the way, was invented first for CNC computer-controlled numerical computer-controlled machinery back in the 70s or something. So I think it persists all the time. So when I'm happy with all that, and I very often, for the complex print, I will examine that print just to see that there's nothing untoward happening. And you can have prints with overhangs. I mean, this hat here, that doesn't sit flat on the bed. So when you've got an overhang, you need to have support material, which is sacrificial. So, actually, if you guys in the room, you can actually see the imperfections left by the. There are ways around that, but for this, it's just a kind of one-off thing for Halloween, so I really didn't stress over it. You can get fancy if you want to. Particularly with this, you can use mismatched materials. So the support material is a mismatched material that doesn't stick to the main material. It comes away easily. Yeah, where was that? Yeah, so you can actually follow it step by step. And there are people who like to get in and hack the G code, of course, and add their own little things, but I don't do that. Yes, yes, you can't blend colors. Up to about 3 or 4 months ago, there was all these rumours swirling around in the sort of subculture of Bamboo Labs, this particular brand of printer. They're bringing out a new printer, and there were teasers being put out, and I thought, wouldn't it be magic if they'd found a way of actually blending colours? But that wasn't to be. They actually came up with a lower cost 4-color printer to sort of in the sub $1,000 US or less, I think, price range. The A1, which is looks very cool. It looks sort of like something off the Starship Enterprise. But what was I going to say? No, it swaps. You can only have spot colors if you're a printer, sort of old-fashioned printing type thing. You can only have spot colors. There is a technique that they're using for doing flat prints with different colors, and it's a technique that's generally called lithophane, which is thing you put a light behind it and you've got an image. And they're actually doing color lithophanes now, and that's pretty awesome. I haven't dabbled with that yet. You really need to buy the CMYW, not K, but black, white, processed colors, and I've seen a couple of pictures of stuff that was quite awesome. Family photos or fantasy scenes and what have you. So I send that to a printer. It comes up, it just confirms that I've got the right thing selected. I get an odd slip up and it prints in the color I didn't want, but bed leveling, I've unchecked that because it's already leveled. Actually, I'll turn that on. I can record a time-lapse image if I want to, but for a thing that's this tiny, it's going to be boom, boom, boom. So there's only 6 layers in it. You're not going to see anything. And if I can get to the button, the screen of mine is not very good for this. Right, it's downloading to the printer now, I think. Yep. Yep. There we go. Now it switches through to the printer's camera. And I really should have removed the old one. I've goofed that. I'm going to have to stop.
Just while David's having a little tweak there, just another point to make about the 3D printer. We do have a couple of bed slingers in the maker room as well. I'm here every Wednesday if anybody wants to come and have a play with a bit of guidance. I'm no expert, but I'm happy to help out and we can get something printed.
Yep. I've tried too quickly after finishing one print to go and do another one. That's what happens when you're grip under pressure. Has been grip under pressure. So that's sort of basically it. And how are we going for time? I think I was getting the 5-minute signal. Oh.
David, can you hear questions?
Any questions?
Yes, David. Can you hear this from?
Yes, I can hear you. Who is it?
To what extent is delamination a problem? And is it affected by the area of the thing that you're printing or other factors? Okay,
that's a good question, John. The number one problem that people experience is simply adhering to the print bed. With this setup here, it seems to be licked now. The particular surface that it's printing on is called textured PEI, and I have no idea what that stands for, but it sticks like the proverbial to a blanket, and then when it's cold, you just lift it off. It's just brilliant. The delamination of layers, yes, it is a material that has a grain structure. So if you wanted to print a baseball bat, just thinking of something crazy, if you've got the layers perpendicular to the axis of the baseball bat, it ain't going to last long. It's going to come apart. If you really want to print a baseball bat, you would somehow contrive to print it so that it's lying parallel to the bed when you print it. Having said that, I've got a couple of, I do a lot of, I design a lot of my own stuff, and I designed a little gadget. You can't see it because I'm not on camera, but I designed a little gadget recently, and very often when I'm developing stuff, I sort of print it out and say, oh, that's wrong. So I get in there with a knife or a pair of cutters or something to hack around with it to find a better solution. And I was struggling with the single layer print to separate the layers. So certainly with this printer, and I've got a very similar model at home, it's still pretty good. So
is there any atmosphere control within the printer to keep temperature up, or?
Yes and no. You'll notice I was printing with the door open. The particular material I'm using, which is PLA, it doesn't want to get too hot. So if the temperature inside the chamber gets to over 35 or 40, particularly for a long print, everything will start to get really hot. And if the filament starts to melt further up in the print head where it's not meant to be melted, where it's still meant to be solid, now you've got yourself a problem that's going to require some Allen keys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. For other materials, they want to have heat. So there's sort of a little bit of there's a lot to learn in that area. I stick to PLA most of the time. It's great. You just don't go and put it in boiling water. It will go very strange. It will go all Salvador Dali on you. But there are other materials right the way up to nylon you can use, and carbon fiber reinforced nylon if you're really daring.
Sadly, it's 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
We were to have eye help, but Harry suggested, in view of the time, that we don't have that session tonight. But I think Harry will probably be online. So if anyone would like to ask, is he there?
Yes.
If people we'll close the meeting, but if people wish to ask him questions, I think, Harry, you'd be happy to deal with them?
Yes.
Thanks, Harry. So, and David had prepared a much more comprehensive presentation, and it was a bit unrealistic tonight to try and fit in 2 presentations and an AGM, but maybe even next month we can get closer to the printer, because it's pretty interesting.
We'll probably be talking about related matters at the microcontroller SIG meeting next Wednesday as well. Last month I did a little bit on the principle, one of the main design programs called Fusion 360. It's a big hill to climb, but once you climbed it, it's very powerful. And that was actually quite popular. We had twice as many people in that meeting than we normally have. So, and I think I had it advertised club-wide, rather than just to the SIG group. So we'll probably do something similar. My feeling at the moment is the microcontroller SIG group is going to slowly morph into a 3D printing and make it group.
David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can't see you.
Okay, John Hall.
Oh, John. Hi. How you going?
Are you going to have that printer there on the open day on the 19th of October?
Oh, you betcha.
19th of November, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, fine. What model is it?
It's called a Bamboo Lab P1E.
P1P? Okay.
E for Eric.
E for Eric. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Does everybody know that there's an open day on the 19th of November? Does everybody in the room know that there's an open day on the 19th of November? Because if they don't, maybe we could get some volunteers or something.
Or maybe an email can go out again reminding people.
I'm sure there will be. Yeah, I'm sure you will be doing that. Yeah.
We have had several emails.
Yeah, I just thought it was a good opportunity to for it to have been talked up a bit while we had a few members online. That was all.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yes,
and perhaps another email before when it gets closer to the date.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. In closing the meeting, I just wanted to share with you a little experience I had on the way here tonight. I left early because I wanted to call in at Bunnings and check out their chainsaws, and I had to wait while their Bunnings guy was dealing with a tough-looking guy who was bringing a chainsaw back and complaining bitterly. I'm not good at accents, but I'll try. He said to him, "You say to me that with this chainsaw, I can cut 4 tons of firewood a day." "Yes, you should be able to do that." Said, "Well, I took it home, and next day I chopped wood from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I have a look, only 1 tons. Oh, then I say to myself, Giuseppe, you must be getting soft like a woman. And next day I get up at early, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I cut wood until 9 o'clock at night, working, and only 2 tons. This chainsaw is no good." So the Bunnings guy had a look at the chainsaw, checked it out, it all looked all right, turned on the switch, pulled the rope, it was brum, 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 and Giuseppe said, "What's that noise?" If you didn't hear me, I declared the meeting closed.